Hi, I'm Chris Hall, and this is my History and Systems of Psychology Unit 5 video assignment. I've recently seen a gentleman in my office that felt like life was just beating him down. This gentleman told me that he felt like he had been dealt a bad hand and that no matter what he did, he just could not get ahead. Some examples he provided me were the constant need for home or auto repairs, dissatisfaction with his work, and the feeling that he was a disappointment to his family. This gentleman was clearly upset about how things were working for him and generally wanted some help and guidance. To address this individual's need, I opted to use the approach of humanistic psychology. The reason I opted for this approach of humanistic psychology is that it focuses on the whole person and focuses on helping people maximize their potential. I felt that the humanistic approach would provide some empowerment for this individual to change the direction of how he saw things going for him. The humanistic approach concentrates on the experience of an individual, self efficacy, and free will while minimizing concentration on dysfunction. Thus, humanistic psychology empowers the individual to create their own opportunities, find solutions to problems, and overcome obstacles. The humanistic approach essentially allows the individual to create their own positive outcomes. Humanistic psychology gained prominence in the early 1960s as a third force in psychology. Many early proponents of humanistic approach found other forms of psychology which concentrated on dysfunction and was overall too pessimistic. Although humanistic psychology gained prominence in the 60s, its roots go back to the mid 1800s with the likes of William James and Franz Brentano, both of whom were critical of the psychological approaches of the time. Many others contributed to the humanistic approach when they contradicted Freud's theories of the unconscious mind, contending that individuals had free will. Finally, the social environment of the mid 1960s found sympathy among the counterculture of the times. While the humanistic approach alone is not as prominent as it was in the 1960s, the concept and goals of the humanistic approach are still seen in other forms of psychology. It is difficult to discuss the humanistic approach to psychology without bringing up fate versus free will argument. The humanistic approach, at its roots, is a major advocate for free will. The humanistic approach essentially says we have the free will to control our outcomes and what happens to us. Fate, on the other hand, indicates that while there may be choices for different paths, an outcome is predetermined. Proponents of free will argue that fate and determinism devalue human behavior, and that we determine our behavior and therefore our outcomes. Opponents of free will argue that free will does not account for mental illness and predictability of behavior. My personal thought, there is likely a degree of fate and free will, meaning there are some things we can control and some things we cannot. Ideally, we would all control our actions and maintain a positive outlook and direction. Maintaining that positive outcome and behavior, however, is easier said than done, and ultimately, there are things that we cannot control, including our emotions and reactions to different things. While fate and free will may very likely remain a point of contention, it seems that we can do our best to control the things we can and strive for positive outcomes. At the same time, we can learn to accept the things that are or seem to be beyond our control. Whether we prescribe to fate, free will, or a little bit of both, taking time to view our situation through a positive lens or getting help understanding our situation is certainly beneficial and in the best interest of our self care.